This is my Volkswagen Scirocco R.
That when I got it was in an awful condition because it had been left abandoned for months.
We have got dirt, we have got mould, we have got more mould.
Not only that, but the reason it was abandoned is because this car failed its MOT.
But I wasn't willing to let this thing get any worse.
So I got the car professionally detailed inside and out to get rid of that nasty mould and dirt. After that, it was time to take care of all the reasons that the car actually failed the MOT. First off, I fitted 2 new number plate lights, then a new rear caliper, and it also needed front and rear passenger side wheel bearings. And last, the headlight level sensors needed fixing.
And that now leaves me with 2 more jobs left to do before I can drive this car for the first time. Now, technically, I could book this car in for an MOT and actually drive it, but there are a couple of things that I think I should do before we actually do that. Now, with this car being left on a farm for about 4 months, I don't actually know when the oil was last changed. And when we actually turn the car on, it does tell us on the dashboard that a service is due. And the last thing I want to do is start driving this car around on old, horrible, nasty oil that's just been sat in that sump for about 4 months. So I think it is only right that we give this engine a good, well-deserved oil change with some fresh oil, a new sump plug, and of course a new oil filter. The car has recently had a new fuel filter, and for brand new spark plugs we have that on the invoices that came with the car. So once we've done this, this car should be okay to drive.
So first things first, I'm going to get the car jacked up so we can get access to the sump plug and drain the old oil.
Look at that, for expertise guys. Not a drop of oil on my fingers. Now, we'll let that drain.
And while that oil is draining, if I could ask you guys that if you do enjoy the videos to please consider hitting that subscribe button, as over 50% of you that watch the videos aren't actually subscribed. But now that oil's drained, I can get the sump plug back on and then move on to the oil filter. These oil filter housings actually have a little bung so you can unscrew them and drain the oil out. But here is where I ran into my first little problem.
Well, it was all going so well until I stumbled upon this. Obviously this is the oil filter housing, and normally on Volkswagens, this is why I bought this socket separately, it is a 32mm socket, but for some reason on these you need a 36, which I don't have. Luckily, one of my neighbours actually does have his fair share of tools, and he has lent me a 36mm socket. Look at the size of that to get an oil filter housing off. Like, that is ridiculous. And that is, I think it's a inch socket or whatever he said. Like, what in the world? 36mm socket, but at least we can now get it off.
And whoever previously put this oil filter housing on really needs to chill out because this was seriously tight.
Oh, lovely. That was ridiculously tight.
Now I can remove the oil filter housing and get rid of the old oil filter, and of course not forget to replace the rubber ring that comes with the new oil filter. And now it's time to get the oil filter installed. And now I can reinstall that new oil filter in the oil filter housing back onto the engine and make sure to not over tighten it. And as easy as that, that is how to change the oil on your car yourself. Anyone can do this, and it's one of the first things that I learned to do myself on one of my cars. But now I can start filling up the engine with the brand new oil.
and now all that's left for me to do is make sure that that light isn't on the dashboard. So we've got the diagnostic tool plugged in, and all I've got to do is turn the ignition on, and then what we want to look for in the diagnostic tool is under special function, we need oil reset, Europe, Volkswagen, yes, automatic detection. That's just going to read what this car actually is, which is a 2011 Scirocco. Oil reset, automatic setting, and then we can just click the minor maintenance because we have only just done a oil service, and I'm going to set it to 7,500 kilometers because this car is a performance car. So that function is now done. So if we take the key out, put it back in, we now shouldn't have that oil light on the dashboard, which we don't. Nice. You can always count on the good old X tool. And now pretty much all of the reasons that this car cannot be driven on the road are now fixed. We've obviously just done the oil service, which we can now add to the cost, and luckily through T's Servicing I got the oil filter and sump plug all for £30, which is really good. And of course that one can now be ticked off as well. And step by step, we're getting that little bit closer each time to being able to actually drive this car on the road and feel that 340 horsepower. But one thing you may have noticed earlier is there is this light on the dashboard, which means there is a bulb out. And after running it through the diagnostic, it actually told me that apparently it is to do with the front right turning signal, which is also the fog light, meaning when the car is turned right, this fog light illuminates to let you kind of see where you're turning into, and of course when you turn left, this fog light illuminates to see where you're turning into this side. And I'm not sure if it is going to be advised on the MOT or if it is actually a failure to have that light on the dashboard. One thing I want to do is actually see what it's doing, because if it's just completely not working, then I don't really know what the fix would be. But for now they're on, so I'm going to turn the car on and actually see what it does.
These are called cornering lamps. They come on some vehicles and not on others. Although I'm not a fan of them, I think they look quite ugly with the rest of the car being xenon or LED. These ones look old with the yellow tint to the bulbs, but you can clearly see that the passenger side is working, and when I turn the car to the driver's side, there is something not right.
Okay, so it is not actually the fog lights, which I thought it was. Now I originally thought these illuminate brighter, lighting the floor up, which as you can actually see, it is the bulb in there. I don't know how well you can see that, but the bulb literally faces out the side of the car. On this side, it has the same bulb, but it doesn't look like it is in the best condition. If it was the fog lights and I had to take the bumper and everything like that off, I'll be honest, I was just going to get VAGCOM and disable it, but I think we can actually fix it.
So I'm going to get the bonnet popped and try and locate which bulb it is that is actually the cornering lamp, and just hope that maybe the bulb is blown and it isn't a wiring issue.
Well, I think I have found the issue. That bulb has definitely blown. What bulb that is another question. It is a H7, so I guess we should replace that. Boom, look at that. That is a brand new H7 bulb, and I didn't buy it from Halfords and pay £5-6 over what I should have paid. Local petrol station actually. H7 bulb, £8.99. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, is what I said. So we can now replace this, and that will literally be this car ready to roll. It'll be good to go after this. No lights on the dashboard, chef's kiss. Right, let's get it in.
And hopefully once I've got this H7 bulb all installed, there shouldn't be any lights whatsoever on the dashboard, which for a Volkswagen will be pretty rare.
that bulb is now all in place, and there should be no lights on the dashboard for any bulbs, which there isn't. Perfect. That should now mean we do not have any lights on the dashboard whatsoever. Well, except the parking brake, my seatbelt, and of course we need to put some fuel in it, but we have no warning lights, which to me means we have one repaired, fully working, no fault Scirocco R.
And once again, with my driveway, some basic tools and a little bit of perseverance, we've taken a car that had failed its MOT miserably to hopefully being one that will last for a little while. I guess we won't find that out until we get it through the MOT a little bit later.
But there would be no point even heading to get this car through an MOT without having a front number plate. So in here, you guessed it, we have got a brand new, fresh set of number plates for the Scirocco, courtesy of Reg Plate King. And the best bit about it is if you want some nice shiny new plates for your car, you can actually use the discount code on the screen and get yourself money off. But for now, I'm going to install these and then we should be ready to take this car for an MOT.
And I can safely say that you will not find any better quality plates on the market but Reg Plate King. So I can now get these number plates installed on the car, which will give it a little bit more of a freshened up look with these being gel plates.
And that is now officially the Scirocco ready for its MOT. So I've booked it for 8 AM tomorrow morning and we can finally drive this car for the first time. I will see you guys in the morning. Well, it is first thing in the morning and we are about to head out and hopefully get this Scirocco through an MOT. But first, I've got a massive decision to make.
And that decision is which of the 3 brand new Holy flavours I'm going to take with me on the road to get my morning energy kick. First, we've got the brand new plum and cinnamon. We have got baked apple, and we also have refreshing candy.
Now, even though all 3 of these do taste amazing, I think it's best if we just stick with the flavour that matches the shaker. And as quick as that, I have got an energy drink that's low in calories, is good for my body, and is also really cheap.
And that can go just there, ready for the trip.
And if energy drinks aren't your thing, then don't worry, because Holy also do iced tea and hydration drinks. And if you are like me and you're really indecisive about which flavour you like, then don't worry, because Holy have a starter kit deluxe. And you also will be able to get a free thermo shaker with that, so you can keep your Holy either hot or cold. The starter kit comes with all the best selling Holy flavours, so there'll be sure to be one that tickles your taste buds. So what are you waiting for? You can literally save money, save on the calories and stay energised for longer by using Holy. Now, let's get this car through an MOT. Well, I am finally out in the Scirocco R, and so far, a little bit of a rattle from the radio region. Might have to dive in and find out what that is, because I can't stand rattles. But we've got no knocks, we've got no bangs, the wheels haven't fallen off, and it stops and starts fine. So far so good, but I'm not going to push my luck or put my foot down much until we've got through this MOT, and hopefully it passes. I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day if it doesn't, but with this having a sports cat on it, I need to make sure it is quite warm before we actually go for the emissions, because apparently if you've got a sports cat and the car isn't that warm, they can fail on emissions. So I'm hoping that by the time we get to the garage, the exhaust's hot enough and the cat is hot enough to pass, so we will just have to see. But for now, the Scirocco is driving good. I'm not putting my foot down, I'll save that for the way back.
And I think I spoke a little bit too soon when I said that this car stops and starts absolutely fine. I've just got to hope that the problem that I've found with this car on the way to the MOT station isn't going to make it fail. But for now, I've just got to hang tight and keep my fingers crossed that this car is going to pass its MOT. And if it doesn't, then I hope that it's nothing serious.
And the results are in. And I am very happy to announce that the Scirocco R is finally road legal. It has passed its MOT, and the only advisory that it has got is the central exhaust has a minor leak. But although it has passed the MOT and we can technically drive it legally on the road, there is a massive issue with this car that isn't an MOT failure, but means that I can't really put my foot down yet. And I think instead of me trying to explain, it's probably best if I just show you. Now, so far, everything works absolutely fine until I do this. Yeah, I think the discs have definitely shot it. The car drives absolutely fine until I have to stand on the brakes. The second I have to stand on the brakes, well, this happens. And it really gets worse the faster you're going. So, although we have got through the MOT, and so far so good with everything else, I think we're gonna have to spend some money on some discs and pads. I can't wait to be able to properly put my foot down in this. It's gonna be fun. But for now, let's go change the front pads and them front discs. So I've just gone out and bought some OEM quality discs and pads. I could have got these upgraded and got some really good ones, but I'm not keeping this car. If the next owner wants to decide to upgrade the brakes, then that is up to him. I'm trying to keep costs as low as possible because we're trying to trade up to a supercar, so I've just gone for these ones. And shout out to T Servicing once again for providing all the parts. So I'm not sure why these discs are warped, I'm not sure how they got warped. All I know is there is a horrible shaking when I try and stop. So I think it's best to just get these changed over, and once we're done, we'll add them to the board. And if anyone can actually guess how much the discs and pads have actually cost me, then leave it in the comments and we'll see if you're right when we add it to the board. But for now, let's get these discs and pads changed, and that then should be the Scirocco done.
So once again, I'm going to get the car jacked up and take the wheel off to give me access to the caliper and that brake disc. Once the wheel is off, I can undo the 2 bolts on the back of the caliper holding it to the hub, and that is the caliper off. The next step to get the brake pads out is to take off this retainer spring. This holds the brake pads in place and stops them moving around inside the caliper. Once that's off, I can now take out the old brake pads, and once the old brake pads are out, I've got to push the caliper piston back. So to do this, I'm going to take off the brake fluid reservoir cap just to give me more chance of pushing the piston back into the caliper, which luckily it did go. Now I'm going to get a wire brush on my drill and just tidy up the hub ready to fit the new brake discs, which I'm going to clean with some brake cleaner and then just fit the studs so they don't fall out the way. Unfortunately on this side, someone had already snapped the screw that actually holds the disc in, so I couldn't reinstall that. But now it's time to install the brand new brake pads, and I'm going to apply a little bit of copper grease to these just to make sure that they don't seize in place. This one snaps into the piston and the other one sits in place and is held in by that retainer spring. And once that's all done, it is time to just put that caliper back onto the hub and bolt it all in place, put the wheel back on, and that is quite literally how easy it is to change your pads and discs on a Scirocco R. Now all I have to do is repeat the entire process on the passenger side, and that should be job done.
And the brakes are now all done, and that should be the Scirocco ready to actually go out and finally have some fun in. But of course, not before we add it to the board. And of course, this is something that I didn't know that it was going to need. So, brake pads and discs. They were a little bit pricey, but not as much as some of you may think. They were actually £160 for the front pads and the front discs. But at least that means we can now go and tick that off the list and also go and drive the car. Finally. Go. We are out in the Scirocco R, and so far, what a car this is. I've got to be honest, it's pretty quick. The handling is definitely not its best aspect, but in a straight line and for noise, this thing is cool. This has definitely been worth all the repairs. I can't believe this car was just sat on a farm, abandoned, and no one was enjoying it. What an absolute waste. What a waste of a fun little car like this. So fun. Let's turn traction off and we'll get it on the straight and go from second gear. Well, someone's definitely mapped overrun into it because it flames like mad and it sounds like that. What a fun little car. Someone is going to absolutely love this thing. And it's just a shame that I can't keep them all. And the best part about all of this is so far we've got no faults whatsoever. The brakes are holding up really well. There's no engine lights, there's no misfiring, there's no unwanted knocks and bangs. It is low, but the dump valve sounds amazing. What a car, man. We started with a Vauxhall Astra. The best bit about it as well only just getting started. This is the first proper performance car that we've had on this series. And I'm hoping to definitely get a lot more. But this has been definitely the most rewarding out of all the cars I've done so far. The fact that it's got that 340 horsepower, so the motivation when we were fixing it was definitely there, and this car has definitely paid off. Someone is going to properly love this thing. I really do wish I could just keep them all as a little bit of a trophy to remember where we come from and how it all started. But yeah, what a fun car, and what an achievement getting this back on the road to a fully working standard. Like, it works, everything's fine, the wheel bearings are fine, the brakes are fine, everything's fine, working as it should, engine's fine, the lot. In all fairness, the exhaust isn't actually that loud when you're in the car. Don't get me wrong, it's very loud outside of the car. Woo! But when you're in the car, it actually sounds quite nice. I think this is one of them cars that is kind of too low to handle well. Someone has proper slammed this thing. And if I was keeping it, I would definitely make it a little bit higher, but that is for the owner that gets this off me to decide. Well, although I could stay out here for much longer and keep having some fun, I think I better head back to the driveway, and I guess it's time to run through what's actually left to do on this Scirocco R before I put it up for swaps. I think it is definitely safe to say that so far in this swapping up to a supercar series, this has been the car that I've wanted to keep the most. But of course, all good things do have to come to an end, and there's only a couple more bits that are left to do with this car until we have to put it up for swaps. But that is all going to be done in the next video. For now, if you did enjoy this one, please like, comment and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
You wear a hat they call dad. Me, I'm the dad in a hat. You just like clubbing and clothes. Me, I like afternoon naps. 3, I be missed for the road. My oldest like counting racks. My middle one, she's in a dirt bike. My youngest is just like a mama. The mama loves me and I love her, so if she wants something, it's never about her.